This is our agenda for tonight's session on digital and social media. I'll talk a bit about how digital and social can potentially fit into your campaign plan. Catherine is going to share information about the specific social platforms and what they're best for, some tips for how to use each different platform most effectively. We'll also share some tips for creating and posting content. I will talk very briefly at the end about paid digital, and along the way, we will share some resources. We'll wrap up with some next steps. So, jumping into the role of digital and social in your campaign, I forgot to ask for with the introductions how many of you maybe have attended some of the other candidate training sessions. I'm going to share a couple slides that go back to um, the communications. We did a session on developing your entire communications plan a couple of weeks ago. And last week we had a session on developing your core message. So this is just a reminder, we've covered those topics. If you have missed those two sessions or any of the other candidate training sessions and you want a copy of the video or the training slides, please email me. I'm happy to share that. Also, you can see the video recordings on YouTube. They're all posted there. When we talked about our communication strategy, we talked about messaging, we talked about paid media, owned media, and earned media. A lot of what we're going to talk about tonight is really focused on that owned media category, which are the communication assets you as your campaign can control. Social media accounts, website, things like that. In our communication strategy, we previously talked about the key questions are what action do we need people to take? Who are the people we want to take that action? And then what medium, what message, and which messenger will help move those people to action. You, as candidates, are interacting with a lot of different people and you need them to take different actions. There are voters, there are potential endorsers, donors, community leaders, a lot of volunteers, a lot of people, and they all have different communication needs from you. So, as I said, we'll be focused tonight on owned media, which includes your website, which I'm just going to talk about real quick. I'm going to share a resource there. Our focus is really going to be on social media and the social media platforms. Email, we have covered in a couple of other sessions. We've talked about emailing donors, we've talked about emailing volunteers. Emailing voters, probably not a tactic that I would recommend for most campaigns. So tonight's going to be focused on really social media. When you are developing your digital strategy, as all of the other strategy components we've talked about, here are some questions to think about at a high level. What are your goals and how can digital tools help you achieve them? I want you to ask yourself these questions in part because you don't have to do digital and social if it doesn't make sense for your campaign. You don't have to do all the platforms. You don't have to do all of the tactics. I want to make sure, especially we've got 2 months for most of you probably until election day. In that finite amount of time, I want to make sure that everything that you are doing for your campaign is really making the best use of your time. So when you think about your goals, these are some of the goals you might have where digital can play a role. Telling the story of your campaign. The public likes to see behind the scenes aspects of campaigns. Politics and elections can be mysterious. And for people who have never run for office before, sometimes it can even be a little glamorous. If you've run or you're running now, you know it's a lot of work, but it can be a little glamorous to people. They like to see behind the scenes stuff. You can use digital media to amplify the core message of your campaign. Who are you? What do you stand for? What are your values? And what do you want to accomplish for your community? You can talk to voters about voting. In particular, I've got here GOTV, Get Out the Vote. We have a training session on GOTV coming up in 2 weeks. This will be how do you really focus in that final 4 to 6 week push to make sure you are getting your supporters to the polls. There's digital fundraising. We're not really going to cover that tonight, but we did talk about it a little bit in the fundraising training. You can use digital to recruit volunteers. Those are some of the goals that digital can really support you with. And as I've mentioned, the tools here, email, social media, website, texting, all of those digital tools can potentially play a role. What you also need to be asking yourself is realistically, how much of your resources, how much time, how much money do you want to allocate to your digital program? I didn't see all of the messages in the chat. I'm going to read them while Catherine is presenting. But for those of you who are running this year, I would consider focusing on just one or two digital tools and executing them very well. For someone who is running perhaps in 2026, state assembly, what else is happening in 26? Sheriffs, district attorneys. If you are running for one of those races next year, judges, in that case, you've got over a year. So that's where you might say, I want to go deeper on digital tools, and I've got time to learn new platforms, to learn new techniques. I have a campaign manager. Um, if your election is this year, but you have someone, a volunteer on your team who's really strong in digital and social, and you can trust them to take care of it for you, that's another example of when you might want to add a few more tactics in the mix. But for most of you, if you're running this year, pick one or two and consider incorporating those into your program. I'm going to share this template in the follow-up email tomorrow as well. This is an example of a digital calendar. This comes from Arena. I've shared some of their resources in other classes, but this is just a way for you to keep track of the messages, kind of balance the mix of your calls to action, the mix of the platforms that you're using, plan ahead for key dates coming up for the campaign, and then backfill where you have gaps. So that can be helpful for you in planning your calendar. And then we're not going to talk about websites today, and I've shared this resource before, but just in case, if you want to have a website and you haven't yet created it, Catherine and our digital team can provide a website template for you. So instead of having to pay a designer or learn how to build a website on your own, this template, which can be used with Wix or Squarespace, those are companies that could host your website, you can get that design template for free. You'll still have to buy a URL, your web address, and you'll still have to pay hosting. For the next 3 months, that's, I don't know, $50 tops. So thank you, Glenn. That feedback is great. I'm glad that worked for you. We got a happy customer here. So if you're interested in a website, that's a good resource for you. All right, that's a bit about the role that digital and social can play in your campaign plan. We're going to get into the different social platforms next. Before I do, what questions do you have so far? Miriam's campaign graphic is really fantastic. Okay. I I Oh, why do I not recommend email? Christina, specifically, I don't recommend emailing voters because I think it'll come across as spam if the emails even go through. So the email addresses for voters in Vote Builder aren't super reliable. So emailing people who you know to do fundraising, email people who know and love you to ask them to volunteer on your campaign. those are tactics I would use, but not just emailing the general list of the thousand or whatever voters in your area. Okay. Also, email in general, like I still use email tons for work. People who are younger than me, um, not so much into email. Just in general, people are using it less and less because it has gotten more and more spammy. All right, Catherine, do you want to have me click for you?
Um, I don't know how to click for myself unless I would be sharing my screen, which I could do, just was not preparing to. But I
No?
think that might be best. If you give me a couple seconds here, I can. I think also, hi folks, on the point about email, email is actually very technically hard to do very well at a large scale, which I think a lot of people don't think so because of the general ubiquity of email, but it surprises you. And so that's kind of why it's real easy to end up in spam folders. It's just because there's a lot of technical elements that are involved with doing email well. Let me, okay. I think, I think I
You want
can
me to do
get,
these first couple slides and then hand it to you for the platforms?
if you want to, sure. I'm ready to pick up whenever you leave off.
You are our social pro. I'll let you have it.
Okay. Let me share then. Let's see. Presentation display options. Oh, start slideshow.
I can click for you if you want.
Perfect. Oh, I just got, well, oh my goodness gracious me. There we go. There we go. Now I fixed it. All right. Sharing my screen. All right, team. Can we see this? Can we see the agenda on social platforms?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Social media. Social media is so ubiquitous. It's so commonplace in our modern world. We now live in a world where our attention is precious and it is fleeting. And the younger folks are, the more they know and are more victim to it. I would say, just the like fleeting nature of our attention and social media with the quick scrolls and a lot happening, and just kind of passing everything by, really quickly consuming. Your job, if you want to be effective on social media, is to interrupt the person that is scrolling quickly through their social media, whether that's on, your friends on Facebook or someone you've never met before on Instagram. Your job is to interrupt that person and bring them into whatever it is that you are sharing. And so that is going to look different depending on what platform you use because of the different ways that the platforms are structured and the different types of people that use them. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is like how to best interrupt people, so that they're looking at what you have to say and are going to be receptive to your message. Um, and also, the types of amplification that you do are going to depend on the platform as well, because there's different ways and methods of sharing other people's content that are unique to each specific platform, which can impact how you interact with supporters or your opponent or the media, etc., so forth. So these are good best practices to have across platforms. I think everyone here knows, if you have a name that you go by with your family and then you go with your friends and suddenly somebody starts calling you by a different name, then everyone gets all confused. Same thing on social media. You're going to want to make sure that you stay as consistent as possible, so that if somebody follows you on Instagram and they also want to find you on Twitter or X or even on Facebook, that it's going to be the same everywhere. And for some of us, that ship has already sailed. We've got accounts set up in different ways with different names. If you can change it, I would advise it. If you can't, just make sure that as you plan to add different social media accounts to your portfolio, that you try to keep a consistent theme. My suggestion, wherever possible, first name, last name. get your first name, last name account locked down. For some of us with more common names, that might be a little bit more difficult. So you go first name, last name for NC, for the town that you live in, something like that. If that's too long, you can do first name for, you can do last name for. Just keep it consistent where you can. And to the best of your ability, also use the same profile picture and the cover photo. That way, as soon as somebody clicks onto that profile, they're not confused about whether or not this is the same person they saw on social media or online, on different platforms. They know it's you. They've seen that picture of you before, and that just makes it easier for you to keep consistency, and people will know who you are and where they've seen you before. So just try and kind of, build. You can use your campaign logo, use your picture of your face. Just keep it consistent, keep it well branded. Your biography in your social media platforms is usually character limited, so you get a very, very tiny little piece of a space to talk about who you are and what you're doing. And so you usually find people just do like a list of things that they do. And so it might be like mom, dog lover, veteran, LGBTQ, pride flag, like whoever, like the kind of the highlights of who you are, you want to put that in your bio so that people immediately know when they look at you, they know what is important to you, what you value. And that helps them come away with a greater impression of who you are. So whenever you click onto somebody's Facebook page, or when you click onto their Twitter profile, or you're on their Instagram profile, right there at the top, you'll see what is most important, what they want you to know first. Usually in that space, you can also link to your website, which I would encourage everybody to do, is make sure that you are sending people to your website wherever you can. Website for your campaign, that's something that you control. That's something that there's going to be no distracting factors on that website trying to tear people's attention away from you, because that is your space. So as much as possible, you want to get somebody to go to your website to look at you and to not be competing with other things of happening above or below on their feed. No notification showing up on their feed being like, oh, somebody likes your post. No. On your website, you control the presentation of the information and the narrative, and gives you 100% focus. So where you can, you want to link people to the website. All right. Let's see. Let my chat make sure I'm not
A couple of questions have come up,
missing anything.
but they're platform specific, so I thought we could wait. Also, I booby trapped the
Hmm.
slides, and I just realized as you're starting to click through them, I did another format of how you might want to talk about the different platforms. So when you see the preview, I apologize. I didn't have a chance to
Oh,
catch
it's fine. It is fine. Listen, it's been busy, y'all. I have been at the DNC meeting here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, for the past 2 days, running around, learning a lot actually from some of the digital professionals in our at the national level, which has been great. So happy to be able to share some of that with y'all. But we have been pulling this together here at this moment. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
new version. I thought if you wanted to just talk through it.
I was prepared to go through it platform by platform since we didn't have anything written down on this list yet, because I was looking at
So
this a little earlier.
those slides are there as well. I didn't delete
Cool. So
them, so
let's,
you can skip that. Yeah.
yeah, let's flip through there. And then since I saw the questions about um, Facebook, we can talk about those when we move through here. So Facebook, as one of like the original social media platforms, it really is the blueprint on which a lot of other social media platforms are built. Um, this is, I think, all of us, I would assume, are probably, used to using Facebook in some capacity. We might not use it every day, but we've probably clicked around on there before. If you haven't, it is, I don't even know how to describe Facebook to somebody who hasn't used it before, because it's like the base building blocks. Um, but you can have a page that is about you, kind of like a website. It's a page that's about you and has all of your posts on it. You can also have groups where a collection of people come together about a topic that they care about. So there's a bunch of different democratic Facebook groups. And so with you and your presence on Facebook, you're usually talking to people who are directly in your community. Facebook tends to be Most everyone has a Facebook account. There's a wide variety of people in all different age groups who use it. I think the most active audiences on Facebook, they do skew older. But it is a great base for, finding your volunteers, your Democratic parties, and your community. So, either your local community in terms of like people who live in your town, just, community activists or community organizers, or just folks who care. You will usually be able to find them and reach them in that space. Join community groups of interest to you, or even have a Democratic Party group, or bring people to your Facebook page. So a large community on Facebook, where you will be able to reach local people. So what is it best for? I think this is actually at the top here. I don't think there's a slide where any of this is set out explicitly. But the biggest change that is happening in social media is algorithms. The extent to which a computer is deciding for you what content you are served, meaning what content shows up on your feed when you scroll through your social media accounts, when you go to your homepage on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. And so some platforms are driven almost entirely by the algorithm, which means you're looking at a set amount of content that has been kind of pulled from a bunch of different users from all over the place to cater to your interests. And then some platforms are more catered to things that you've actually elected to see, like from your Facebook friends or people that you follow. Facebook exists kind of on one side of the spectrum, where you are served content primarily by your Facebook friends and the things that they share and the Facebook groups that you are a member of. It's not that there's no algorithm. A lot of Facebook is algorithmically driven, but it's mostly what you elect to see and elect to share. So Facebook is good for community organizing through Facebook groups, because it's a place that people are going intentionally to for that purpose of seeing content that they know is shared by their friends and in their community. So this is a great place to organize, because you are better able to kind of control the groups that you're reaching in terms of like, I know that if I post in this Facebook group, a certain type of person will see it, and the members of this Facebook group will see it, and they will share with their networks. And I want this specific kind of person to share with their network, so I'm going to post in that Facebook group. But that is what you want to use Facebook for. And it's good because you can join like a county party Facebook page, which will give you a direct access to being in that community, being able to promote your message to that specific community. Let's see here. I'm going to move the meeting chat. Posting tips. Exactly right here. Shares are more helpful than likes on Facebook, because a lot of likes might show that a lot of people like your post, but what you really want is to be shared to other people's pages, because there's less algorithmically driven. You're less likely to find that your post is being, selected by the computer to be disseminated to all of the different kinds of people on Facebook. You need to make sure that your supporters are sharing you to their friends, to their family, to the people who are friends with them on Facebook. So you want to do things that drive shares. And you also, and this is true for every social media platform, if you have images that you're putting on, whether it's a graphic, graphic meaning, any kind of like image that is, I would say, more words than picture, like an image. So if you're posting something like that, you want to make sure that it is suited for viewing on the app specifically, or the website. And so that on Facebook, typically that means that you want to post something that is wider than it is tall. That's the only platform, I think, for which that is still the case. And also Facebook is a good place to post live videos and to take live videos of your events. Most of the social media platforms are capable of working with live video, but Facebook is one of the stronger ones where that tends to do a little bit better, especially with your community groups in specific. And so if you have an event or you're doing something, and you would like to share that with the Facebook app, you can go live on Facebook and just promote exactly what you're doing to all of your followers, have an internet record of your campaign event, and let people who are not physically there with you see your campaign events. And that can be a good way to build a little bit extra of a following on Facebook. Yeah.
I can summarize the question from Kendra Coggins. Kendra says they set up a Facebook profile for the campaign instead of a business page. I guess the question is kind of, does that matter?
I would say yes, it does matter, but it's not too significant. There are benefits to using a page. I would say the primary benefit is that you can add people to the page to be administrators of the page. It can be a lot when you're a candidate or even a campaign manager to take over the job of running all of the social media yourself. And so if you have a page, you can be like, oh, my friend Lynn says that, she would like to help me with my Facebook page. I will add her as an administrator to my page and, she can help me with that. And so that makes it a little bit easier for you to take people on and off of the Facebook page to make sure that you always have somebody who's able to run it and help you with it. And a Facebook profile, if you make a profile, that means that you are um, the primary vehicle that people are using to engage with you is like as a friend, like they'll be friending you, which is a little bit more involved than somebody like following your Facebook page. So it can promote a little bit, I think, more of a closeness, but also I feel like people are less likely to be friends with a campaign account because it can feel a little impersonal. And so a page is just, it's a quick follow button. I think that is a little easier to, or like a like of the Facebook page rather, a little bit easier to encourage people to interact with. Okay. Oh, I didn't mean to click next. Does that answer Facebook questions? Anyone else have any Facebook questions?
No other Facebook questions. Thank you.
Cool. So, Twitter. It is now called X. I call it Twitter because I don't refer to it the way that Elon Musk wants us to refer to it because I think it's silly. Twitter is regretfully a really important platform for us to stay on as Democrats, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of commentary about, like, should we be staying on Twitter? Why are we using Twitter? Twitter still has a lot of users. It is a dominant force in the public square and public court of opinion. I invite people to think about, some of the largest media voices in America, like the Stephen Colbert's of the world and the news reporters. And when's the last time you've heard them refer to a Facebook post or an Instagram post? I think you might have seen them refer to a tweet. When they're talking about social media, it tends to be talking about Twitter. And that is because that is where reporters, elected officials, and media people tend to live. That is where political discourse tends to happen. That is where a lot of political media runs through Twitter. And so there is a larger amount now than there was previously of algorithmic control, where Elon Musk has been attempting to tweak the Twitter algorithm to better serve Republicans and Republican users. Um, but that has not stamped out Democrats who use the platform and have been using it for a lot of good purposes as well. Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has been making some waves on Twitter recently as well. So there's a lot of a lot of a lot of activity on Twitter on the left side of the spectrum still as well. So Twitter is a kind of unique medium in that it's primarily words. 280 characters is all you get on a Twitter post. I guess we should, also talk about, like, what is Twitter? Twitter is a text-based social media platform where you get a very limited number of characters to be able to get your thought out. And that's part of what has made it into the force that it is today. You have to take all of your complicated thoughts and make them short. And there's upsides to that. Concision is one of those upsides. The downside is loss of nuance, and which creates a lot of interesting moments on that app. So Twitter is where journalists live, and that is everyone from the local journalist who is operating the local paper. Like, if your local paper has one journalist, as mine did, that is they're going to be on Twitter, and they're going to be engaging with other reporters on Twitter, with local leaders on Twitter. That is where press releases from government agencies will get posted. That is where press releases even from your local government agencies might get posted as well. That is where TV reporters like Joe Bruno out of Charlotte, or Andy Spate out of Raleigh, That is where they live. That is where they prowl for all of their Twitter news. That is where the people who report on things going on in the General Assembly in Raleigh are putting out their most recent updates. That's going to be on Twitter. That's where Washington, D.C. reporters are going to be putting out their most recent information. And so when you're on Twitter, very frequently, you're not posting there to talk to your neighbor. You're not posting there to talk to the people in your community that you're trying to reach actively, like voters. You're talking to the people who are going to frame the narrative about you in the media that then reaches voters. So if you're, local reporters, they will be on there. So if you want to kind of build a brand about who you are, it's, a little kind of um, dog and pony show. Is that the word? I don't know. If you want to kind of put on a little bit of a, build your brand, who you are, to kind of build the impression for local media, like this is what my campaign is about. This is who I am. That's the place where you have the best shot of being able to broadcast that directly to media at all levels. So if you're running a very small race in a smaller town, if you're running, and I say small as in like just fewer people are going to be voting in that election. If there's not a large, media presence there, if there's not a lot of reporting that's going to get done on it, then maybe you don't have to be as active on Twitter because you're probably not going to reach your voters on Twitter. But if you're running in a larger race, especially if you're running for anything that like state house, state senate, anything at that level, county commission, even your sheriff's races, any countywide races, you're going to want to be on Twitter just so that you can periodically post updates that will allow journalists and other people who are going to be commenting on the race to keep up with what you're doing. So that is where Twitter comes into play. That also means that if you are using Twitter, and that's one of the social media that you have decided to put a little bit of your time into, this is not where you post your life updates. You don't need to put any of your vacation pictures on here. You don't have to, no food pictures. None of that's necessary. Just strictly business. You can be strictly business on Twitter. No need to worry about anything that's like overly personal. There's a lot of places where you can kind of post like, this is me, I'm a human, I'm a candidate, but I'm also a human. That's best for Facebook, that's best for Instagram. You don't have to do that as much on Twitter. Do we have any Twitter questions before we move on to Instagram?
Nope, we're good.
No Twitter questions? Fabulous, folks. Let's talk about Instagram. Instagram is a like media first, images, picture first platform. And so if you've never used Instagram before, as opposed to Twitter, where you're just scrolling through a whole bunch of people's words, mostly, Instagram is exclusively pictures and video. And so if you're on Instagram, that means you have to be posting pictures, which means it can, depending on your approach, you can make that hard for yourself by always trying to post fancy graphics. That's what the party does. We have our content package where we send out all of our fancy graphics because we know it can be hard to make graphics yourself to stay active on places like Instagram. Or you could just be posting pictures of yourself and volunteers or pictures from the campaign trail. It's a choose your own adventure situation, depending on the kind of brand you want to build. Instagram is a very personal, interpersonal platform, kind of in a similar way that Facebook is. And so a lot of the people who are going to be volunteering for you, especially younger folks. So I'm talking, that's anywhere from Gen Z, people my age. I'm 25. So people who are, their early 20s all the way up to in their late 30s, early 40s, like our millennials, are really big into using Instagram. And so a lot of, your younger volunteer base will live on Instagram. But all people of all ages use Instagram as well. It's the best for, so visually driven storytelling as well. So if you want to take pictures from the campaign trail and post them there, it's a good way for people to kind of follow you and document, your progress and the things that you're doing and show your priorities really quickly through when you click onto your profile on Instagram, there'll just be a grid of all the pictures that you've posted, and somebody can tell a lot about you from going to your profile and scrolling through just to see what pictures are you taking? What does that say about you and the things that you're doing? Are you doing a lot of, events in the community? Or is it just like pictures of you standing behind a podium, and talking? Like, what story are you telling about yourself and your candidacy through those pictures? Instagram has evolved in the way that people use it. And so young people tend to use Instagram in a different way than older people use Instagram. And that's because there's a bunch of different features. Instagram is operated by the same people who operate Facebook, and they like using Instagram basically as a way to take features that are working from other different social media platforms, and they say, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. And they've made it into this kind of chaotic app where there's a lot of different features and a lot of different ways to use it, all stacked on top of each other. And so that means that there's a lot of different people who are using the same app in different ways. So young people tend to use the stories feature on the Instagram app. So if you're going to choose Instagram as a platform that you want to use and you want to reach young people with it, just kind of posting your pictures normally on your feed. That is not how young people use Instagram. They use the stories feature, which are a type of like temporary expiring post that reset every 24 hours. And they show up at the top of the feed, and they will click to start looking at everyone's stories, and then it will tap, 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 tap to see all of the people that they follow. They'll just tap through all of their different stories to see all of their temporary posts. It is a much more casual way of communicating than the much more permanent posts that you'll have on folks' feeds that you see when you scroll through or go to their profiles. So if you choose to use Instagram, make sure that you're constantly posting to your story, and you'll be reaching the younger voters that way, or your younger volunteers that way. And you can be much more conversational in that space. Additionally, Reels. So Reels are what the Instagram word for vertical video. So, horizontal video, that's like, your YouTube, stuff that resembles traditional TV a little bit more. It's wider than it is tall. Your vertical video is all of the video that takes up your phone screen like this, when it's held like this. Don't mind my background there. It's just a Cybertruck on fire. So Instagram has its own word for vertical video. It's called Reels. And that is a good way also to reach people who use Instagram. I would say that Reels is a feature that was borrowed from TikTok. Remember how I started talking about how Instagram just kind of borrows features that it like? Reels is the Instagram competitor with TikTok, which is a vertical video app. So if you are posting on Reels, good news. You have something that can go on TikTok already, because that is the same kind of post. So if you're posting video on Instagram, Instagram also has Instagram Live, so you can stream live your events on Instagram as well, just like you can on Facebook. You can take that, and you can take that with you to TikTok. Blue Sky. Do we have any Instagram questions before we move on? I keep forgetting to ask. I'm so sorry, my friends.
We're good.
Awesome. Try my best out here. I feel like I've confused myself, so I want to make sure I'm not confusing y'all. Blue Sky are all of the folks who left Twitter because Twitter got bought by Elon Musk, who is objectionable. But that also means there's a very specific type of person that uses Blue Sky. And that is somebody who said, I want to make the elective decision to continue to be on social media in a very similar type of space as Twitter, but exclusively curated for people who don't like the fact that Elon Musk owns Twitter. And so that means that when you're on Blue Sky, the interface is very similar to Twitter. The way that you use it is very similar to Twitter. It is oriented around short posts, predominantly text. But most of the folks are on there are Democrats or left of center folks. You are not really going to find people who are conservative or Republicans in that space unless they are there ironically or with the express purpose to antagonize. The same reason you don't find Democrats on Truth Social. Blue Sky is not owned by Joe Biden or anything. It's was created by the former owner of Twitter and a larger group of folks. But the kinds of folks you find on Blue Sky, I would say, is kind of like the inverse of a Truth Social situation, which is mostly Democrats. Yeah, and the chronically online. So what does that mean about like who you're reaching when you're on Blue Sky? You are mostly preaching to the choir. These are not your persuadable voters. If somebody in your district is seeing you on Blue Sky, They are the people with the high vote builder support scores who are showing up to every election. These are not the people who you need to, beg, cry, and plead with, but please come vote for me. They're good. But there is value in talking to people who are already on your side because these are the kinds of people you can hit with a please give me some money. These are the people you could say, please sign up to do calls for me and knock doors for me. So Blue Sky is a great place to make asks of please volunteer, please give me money, because you know that these folks are on your side. You don't have to do the work of preaching to them. But also sometimes it's fun for a little bit of validation. You can be like, Donald Trump sucks. Republicans, not great. And then everyone starts liking it because they agree with you and you get to feel a little bit of happiness. Like, yeah, I love being agreed with. This is great. So in terms of who you're talking to, you're not really persuading anybody there, but that doesn't mean that the space doesn't have value. It can be nice to have a community of folks who affirm you. So that is Blue Sky. Um, and yeah, the posting tips, very similar to Twitter, mostly for, your quick thoughts. Um, there are some journalists who have made a conscious effort to be on Blue Sky. It hasn't taken off in the same way in the space that Twitter has. So you will find some folks. It's just not, the community is not quite as strong. Let's see, have we gotten to, oh, we don't have it on here. But I do want to say a few words about TikTok before we move on. And if anyone has any Blue Sky questions, please put them in the chat. TikTok is another vertical video platform, which has been undergoing a lot of real interesting legal situations, which we might have heard of from our good Attorney General Jeff Jackson, or folks talking in the federal government. But it's a vertical video platform, by far the most popular social media platform with the youngest generations, including my own. And so a lot of folks, I feel, they feel kind of like they need to be active on TikTok to compete in the modern landscape. And what I will tell you is, no, you don't. If TikTok intimidates you, you don't feel like you have to do it. Remember when I said that Facebook exists on one extreme of the spectrum where it's less algorithmically driven than some of the other platforms? TikTok is far on the other side of that, where most of the time on TikTok, users are not looking at people that they actively chose to follow. They're looking at a series of videos that were selected for them by the computer. Very dystopian. But that also means that most of the time, folks are not served content that's local to them. So if you make a video and you're like, Goldsboro voters, I need you, you're not going to reach Goldsboro. You're going to be, if you are one of the videos that gets picked by the computer to be served out to users across America, there's not a guarantee you're going to get to local folks. You might, but there's not a guarantee, which means it's hard to target. So for local races especially, I wouldn't worry about using TikTok because it's hard to get what you're going to need out of a TikTok account in this moment. If you want to, I would say that it's good for elected officials to use once you've gotten that far, which I'm hoping we can have more conversations about how to use TikTok as an elected official with y'all. But I wouldn't worry about it right now. Yeah, Susan, feel free to skip TikTok, but if you ever want to come back to it, you feel free to email me and we can talk all about it. And with that, we can move on to questions. Any questions about what we just talked about? I know that was a lot of me sharing a lot of thoughts. Yes. This actually brings me back to an amazing conversation I had at another DNC meeting a couple of years ago. There is a Harvard pollster named John Della Volpe who has done a lot of really awesome research on how to talk to young folks on social media. I think it really is a question of our time. Like, how do we actively engage with young folks on social media? The name of the game with young folks is pretty similar to every other voter. And I know that's disappointing to hear me say, because you're like, I want the secret. I want to know. What do they want to see? What do they want to hear? I think that there's a massive conversation happening right now in the Democratic Party about how we talk and what we do. Authenticity is really what people want to see. They want to know that the person they're supporting is a real person who can make real commitments to them. And people are willing to support imperfect people that they think are being honest and forthright with them. And we're seeing that a lot, is that a lot of folks voted for somebody like Donald Trump, even though didn't agree with what he said, because they didn't feel like they were being lied to. For whatever reason, they thought that Democrats could not be trusted, that they weren't getting an authentic version. But they thought, listen, flaws and all, I don't feel like I'm getting an inauthentic version of Donald Trump. I think that even though he's bad, I know the specific ways in which he is bad. There's a weird kind of strange comfort that that has brought folks that made the decision to vote for him. And so that's one of the big conversations we've been having here at this DNC meeting at the very highest levels of people talking about how do we message in politics? It's authenticity. Um, and so young voters, they want to feel like they can trust you. And it can be hard because we're used to performing on social media, you know, kind of like talking to a camera, kind of expecting to do something more like a newscaster would. Something that can help reach younger voters is just having more casual posting, like video style. If you're going to be posting on Reels, if you're going to be posting on TikTok, or even if you do a Facebook video, sometimes just kind of casually getting a phone like this, talking to it, being like, here's what's going on. This is something that's happening. This is an issue that's important to me. Here's a fact about myself, something like that. Being casual can sometimes have a bigger impact than something that's really well professionally done, because people just want to feel like they know you and that they trust you to make good decisions for them.
Catherine, what I would like to do is there are a couple questions that just popped up. If you could answer those in the chat while I share some more slides, because we got about 7 minutes left. So let me buzz through some more information. And again, I will share it in email tomorrow. So some tips for creating and posting content. Catherine has said not every piece of content goes on every platform. They don't all make sense on each of the platforms, so be thoughtful about that. Dig around a little bit if there are hashtags that make sense for you to add. So, for example, a lot of communities will have a community name POL, politics. So, North Carolina politics, Holly Springs politics. There might be people already posting about politics. And so, if you can find what those hashtags are, that can be helpful to add them to your posts. Some ideas on content that you can post. So, when you're doing events with volunteers, when you're at community events, house parties, fundraisers, when you have Zoom events, it's a good idea to have a volunteer or a supporter who can take some still photos and some videos of, if you're the candidate, of you interacting with the community, not so much staged but you in action, that can be good content to put on the platforms. Couple suggestions on things to probably not post. So don't post pictures of voters or volunteers without their permission. If it's a crowd shot, that's one thing, but if it's like you are knocking a door to talk to a voter, you don't want to post that voter's face on social media without them saying it was okay. Make sure your photos aren't too zoomed in, not blurry. And of course, don't post pictures of anyone's personal information. So if someone has completed a voter registration form or a volunteer sign up, or they wrote you a big fat check for your campaign, like don't post that on social. There are some tips here on taking photos and videos. I'm going to keep moving, but when I send the follow-up email, you will have this. The top lines are, a mix of posed and candid shots, mix of vertical and horizontal. That should cover you for all of the various platforms. And Oh, if you're going to post a picture or video with someone and you've gotten their permission, ask how to spell their name, ask what their account handle is. You can tag them so that they can share it with their friends. So those are a couple of tips. There has been some research done specifically on having local people do selfie style videos. It might be called a direct to camera video where they say why they like and support you. Having those kinds of videos and sharing that on your social media has been shown to have an impact on election results. Couple of resources for you. Again, I'll share these in the follow-up email. Catherine mentioned the content package. The content package is a weekly email. It's sent out by our communications director and our digital team for candidates, for county party leaders. Fantastic resource. Quality graphics sized to fit the various social media platforms with alt image descriptions for the visually impaired, got captions. They're topical. You can sign up to get the content package, then you will get content you can post as is on your social accounts, or you post our graphics and write your own caption. Great shortcut to have fresh, high quality content for your social media accounts. I also want to share this resource here, the Poster Project. They have infographics. Again, beautifully designed graphics that tell a story about how bad governance and the Republicans, Trump, the MAGA movement, how they are making us poorer, sicker, less safe. So they intentionally created this website to share resources you can use on your website, on your printouts, on your social media. So that's a good resource as well. In the interest of time, let me keep buzzing here. When it comes to paid digital, um, we I didn't even plan to have time to cover paid digital today because it deserves an hour all by itself. What I would say is that if you are running a race this year, you probably aren't going to have a big need for paid digital. If you're running next year, then it is something you should probably consider. You've got more time. Next year's races, state ledge, for example, are going to have more voters. They're going to be more intense. You're going to need to fundraise more and you'll have more budget to spend. These are some resources from Arena. This would be having digital ads on the social media platforms, whether it's boosting your posts or some other ad format. They have some good resources to help you with that. If you're running next year and you think this is something you want to add to your program, I'm hoping to be able to deliver a full training on that next year. I'm gonna get us done on time. So we are coming towards the end of our candidate training series. There are three left that I want to share. We did just add a session on public speaking skills, September 9th. That is going to be an hour and a half, 6 to 7:30. Get out the vote on September 15th. We'll talk about how to adapt as you go into the final intense phase of your campaign, how you might change your targeting, what are the key activities, how to pull updated information in Vote Builder. So that's coming up on the 15th. September 22nd is going to be with Kat Lawson, our voter protection director. She's going to tell you why you should not concede your race on election night, when you can expect to know the results of your race, what happens if there's a recount or provisional ballots that need cured. So that will be a good one for you as well. Hopefully, you have requested Vote Builder, which is a free resource we're giving to candidates. If you haven't yet, please do. This will help you set up your Canvas program to talk to voters. I have a campaign plan template. I will add the information about social media sometime tomorrow. And then if you're interested in our candidate Discord channel, please join that. It's a way to talk to staff, talk to other candidates, commiserate, share best practices. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording. We are at time.